Hey CKC Lancaster Crafters, this is Trisha Morris and I'm coming to you from my Club Scrap warehouse based in Neenah, Wisconsin. Normally this weekend we would have been together and I'm so sorry that we can't be, but this is a wonderful alternative and I'd like to thank Todd and everybody at CKC for making this happen. I've got a lot to accomplish today. We have 30 minutes together, so here's my plan. The first thing I would usually do if you were at my booth at the show is I would give you the opportunity to do a make and take, to either create a double page spread or a card based on my unique method or approach to scrapbooking, which is very formulaic. We use measuring and math, but have no fear, I'll show you the way. So instead of doing that one at a time at the show, let's all do it together. I have some formulas for you to download, one for a page and one for a card, and that hopefully will help you use some things from your stash. You don't need anything from me to try out these formulas. And then after that, I'm going to spend just a little bit of time talking about how I use these types of formulas to help you be successful in using our monthly scrapbook and page kits. So without any delay, let's go ahead and get started. I want to start out by saying that all the information you're going to be learning with me in the next 30 minutes will be available to you indefinitely, along with all kinds of other information that you'll be able to source online. Basically, with my formulas, I have you gather things, and they're very neutral things you probably have in your stash, because it's my goal to really help you use what you have. So if you're a subscriber to Club Scrap, I can also help you use what we send, and there's no guilt about having to store and organize all that stuff. All right, so on my gather list, you can see here I've got a 12 by 12 paper A, B, and C. So that means 3 different colors of 12 by 12 papers and then 2 12 by 12 papers in D. So that just gives each color you select a letter to correspond with these instructions. So I have the cards I would like to show you that this formula makes. And my goal really is to help you make things with a minimal waste of both your time and your resources. So we're going to make these really clever Z cards, or a double Z fold, I guess you could call it. And this particular formula creates a batch of 6 cards, because if you're going to make one, why not make half a dozen, right? And if you increase or make a recipe, double the batch, you can make 12 cards. So it's really kind of a cool and efficient way to use what you have. So the first thing we're going to do is just select our papers. Now I'm choosing papers from the current Club Scrap. This is from actually the card kit this month of July, and this is our Prism collection. So as you can see, it's very prismatic. And I've got 3 really bright, beautiful colors. I thought, it'd be kind of nice to cheer ourselves up today. So for papers A, B, and C, I'm going to use yellow, blue, and red. And then for paper D, I'm going to use 2 prints. And for this particular formula, I think it works great if you typically use prints for paper D. Now here's a really important thing. When you fold a card, if you've ever folded a card in half and it's the fold is very crumpled and wrinkled, that's probably because you were folding your card against the grain of the paper. So before I score anything or trim anything, if I'm going to be folding it later, I try to check out what the grain direction is first. So if you've never done that before, it's really easy. Hold the paper by an edge and study how flexible it is. Rotate 1 turn and see if there's a difference. Now in this case, when I try to hold the paper at this edge, it absolutely does not want to dip down. If I hold it this way, it dips very easily. And so if I fold the paper in half this way, I know it's going to give me a nice pretty fold. So when I place this into my score pal, which I like to use for folding my cards, I want to make sure it dips easily left to right, which corresponds with the score line I'm about to create with the score pal. So I'm going to place this into the score pal and score it 5.5. And because we're making a Z fold, I'm going to flip the paper from bottom to top and make another score line at 8.25. Set this paper aside, and remember we have paper B and C. So I'm going to check my grain, dipping left to right. Check my grain again, because I want those pretty folds. And I will place this in my score pal, score at 5.5. You notice I'm doing 2 papers at a time. I love to be efficient, and I've learned after making many, many cards through the years, you can indeed score 2 at a time, and that makes for a pretty efficient card making process. Okay, so I've got all 3 of these papers scored, and now it's time to grab my trimmer. So I'm following the steps listed in step 1. There's quite a bit going on here, so just follow along with me and you can watch this again as needed. But I'm using my Fiskars bypass style trimmer. It's got the guillotine blade, self-sharpening. I have these available for you if you're interested in a really well-priced trimmer. This is only $39.95 with member discount pricing for this show special. So it's a great value, very lightweight and portable, yet I call it my workhorse. Now what you want to do is let's just start with one paper. I'm going to place it in the trimmer so that this 5.5-inch scored area is on the left, or the widest. Then you have this smaller area in the middle that's scored, and then this medium size on the right. And I want to cut this at 11. Now before you slice, make sure you're level with this bar across the top. You take your left hand, push down on the clear bar to stabilize the paper, and slice. Now I'm rotating the paper, so I'm cutting through these score lines. So my first trim here is going to be at 10.25, then 8.5, that's 8.5, and 4.25. I'm cutting through the score lines. So the efficiency here is that I needed to score a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of paper, and each one of those pieces has 2 score lines, so that's 8, and I'm going to do that with 3 pieces of paper. I don't know, you do the math. That's, I think, 24 score lines, but instead we only scored 2, 4, 6 times, and we saved so much time. Keep that in mind for your holiday card making. It's a great time saver. Again, with this trimmer, I can trim 2 pieces of paper at the same time, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I usually just do 1 for my warm-up, and replacing it again with the widest scored area, running this way, and we're just going to take 1 inch off. So we're going to cut this at 11. Then rotate so you'll be cutting through the score lines. And our first cut is at 10.25. I love that this trimmer has a vertical grid every 1/4 inch so that I can find easily 10 plus 1 column to the left is 10.25. Then 8.5 and 4.25. Before I set all of this aside, I want you to find the 3 narrow 1 by 12-inch strips in those 3 colors. And I think we can do all 3 at the same time. Place them in the trimmer really carefully. And I want you to trim them horizontally at 11 and 5.5. Okay, so that created 6 strips. And then we have 3 little squares. Those are technically scraps, but if you can find a home for them, more power to ya. That's the whole idea. For step 1, we did the same process with 3 sheets of paper, A, B, and C, and you'll notice my grain direction reminder is right on the sketch. It has the arrow that points left to right, so that means I want the paper dipping easily in that direction. Okay, so now we're moving on to paper D. In this case, there is no arrow on the diagram, so that just means the grain doesn't matter. We're not going to be folding this paper. The other thing is there's this little X right here, and the X means that this piece was not used in the making of the cards as shown, so you don't really need to worry so much about that. And I'm going to go ahead and cut both of these papers at the same time. So let's cut at 10.25, 7.75, and 5.25. Now the piece that's sitting in the trimmer base right now, I want you to rotate it, and I will cut this piece, this 5.25 by 12. I'll cut it horizontally at 8 and 4. And those really are the only 2 numbers you need to remember from now on, 8 and 4. I've done a lot of math here ahead of time, but I just want to show you that this panel we just created will fit perfectly with one of the scored areas on the card base we made earlier. I'm going to take 2 more pieces from the pile of trimmings. These should be the same size, and I'll cut them horizontally. Remember those 2 numbers, 8 and 4. Stack up those pieces and set them aside. There should be 2 more pieces, kind of like the same way. I'll cut them horizontally at 8 and 4. And here are your scraps. So again, now that we're done making our cards, we just have these narrow strips that may or may not be scraps, and then the 3 little squares. So that makes it really easy. Set those aside and out of the way, and let me show you how I deal this out. So the first thing I do is distribute all the largest pieces, which end up being our card bases, and I'll just put them out in pairs. So deal out the dark blue, There should be 2 like that. And then let's try 2 yellow and 2 red. And again, you can pick any papers that you want. I just like to have them be different. And now each of these pieces will receive a strip. So I'll give a yellow one to my blue cards. I'll put a red one on my yellow card and a blue one on my red card. So you're just distributing all the colors. Then here we need red, so I'm going to add a red little strip to each of those. And then how about a blue one with this one and a yellow one with that one. Next, each card needs a large panel. There should be 6 of them because, again, I've gone ahead and done all the math for you. Don't you love it? Now I kind of had 2 piles because we cut 2 sheets at the same time of the print. I like to make sure the print gets distributed. So I'm going to deal those out. Each card gets 2 of those skinnier panels. Boom. Now all the things I need to make my 6 cards are distributed between each. So I'm just going to stack up. This is how I do it when I'm making these in volume. Stack up all the parts and pieces, and I'm going to show you how just to make one because the rest of these cards are assembled in the exact same manner. Okay. Next tip I really want you to remember, and I have an easy way for you to do this, is that the anatomy of a score line consists of a bump and an indentation or a divot, however you want to remember it. But remember that there's a bump and there's like this little divot. So the idea is that you always want to bury that bump inside the fold, not the other way around. So if you see a bump, make sure it goes on the inside of the fold. And that, my friends, is why we flipped the card when we were, flipped the paper when we were scoring. So that first bump guides us to a fold where the card is folded completely in half. So if you don't have a scoring tool, not a big deal. We trim the paper with the grain. Therefore, that fold is going to be nice and clean and it won't be crumpled and icky looking. Okay. So now here is another bump. So I want to bury that by putting it on the inside of the fold, and that essentially folds this area of the card exactly in half for what we would call then the Z fold. Now we're going to do the same thing with this narrow strip. So that bump, let's bury it. Make sure you always align everything up. I don't always just trust my score line. I always do a visual alignment before I make the final crease. And then I bring that one back again in the same way by burying the other bump. Now, when I was making my card samples, at this point I made a plan. Like I thought, how can I decorate these elements to make them fun? So I decided to use some other elements from the Prism collection, like the unmounted stamps. I have 2 little sentiments there that were mounted. And then the Prism card kit also came with these really fun rhinestones. So I chose that as an embellishment as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do some prep work so that I can show you how to finish the rest of this card. Okay, so that stamping and prep work is done. So I'm going to show you some assembly tips that I always use for nice professional looking cards. The first thing we're going to do is add these beautiful panels, printed panels, to the card base. So I'll just turn them all over and everything's designed to fit perfectly. I'll grab my favorite adhesive. And then center each piece onto the card base. Okay, now I want to show you a cool trick. How do I know how to put all this together? Well, let's position the base of the card so that the largest area is on the right, and then close that other flap so that the flap is on the left. And then with the yellow piece, I'm going to close it so that the long flap is on the front and the narrow flap comes out to the right. That's how the card will end up being assembled. I'm also going to keep my handy grid ruler nearby so that I can make sure when I attach this piece to the card, I'm going to do it at about 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom edge. And I'm simply just have a measurement there. The measurement itself doesn't matter. But what I want to do is make sure it gets adhered nice and level to the card base. So that's where that grid ruler comes in. Fun, easy trick now is to apply adhesive to the back of this piece while it's closed. So my flap is closed and I'm only applying adhesive in those 2 areas, keeping this other area free of the adhesive so that the double Z process will work. All right, so now I'm finding 3/4 of an inch here from the bottom edge, which is what I decided I wanted it to be. And then I'm going to place that on my card base. and check out how that works. Okay, then I'm going to apply adhesive to the back of this prepared strip. It's been stamped, again with images from the Prism collection. I'm going to go ahead and layer this on about 1/4 inch from the bottom of this yellow strip. Just using my ruler again to help me, keep me from putting it downhill. I also use the ruler to draw a line level with the bottom edge of this so that the rhinestones would be straight as well. And there is my one completed card. Everything I need to make 5 more exactly like it is completely prepared and ready to go. And all I have to do is follow these steps, or maybe depart from them and make more different ones, or use different sentiments from the stamp sheet, whatever you like. Now that I've shown you how these half dozen cards can be made with that clever formula, remember that you can do this again and again with papers from your stash as well. Again, this was the Prism kit, but these cards were made by my colleague Karen, who's been here at Club Scrap for a mere 17 years. She made these beautiful cards with papers from our vintage Americana collection. In fact, she even turned the printed paper over to the plain side and then used it as an opportunity to do some stamping. Isn't that a fun set of cards? So with this, she had all kinds of stamping options, and she took advantage of them by making several different varieties. And there you have it. These are so much fun. And if you do enjoy making cards, and maybe you say, oh, those stamps are really cool, but I am not a stamper. Don't worry about it. With the way the Prism card kit works is you are able to make 12 cards using the same principles you just learned from me now. So basically, do you see in the inside here, we have the sketches. This is the instruction download you get every month as a card kit member. So these instructions tell you which way the grain needs to go, where the papers are scored, and then I have a full featured tutorial that walk you through the whole trimming and assembly process step by step, very similar to what we did just now. And typically in a month I make 4 each of 3 different card styles for a total of 12 cards. And the kit also includes the papers, the embellishments, all the fun things that we use to decorate them, and a dozen of the envelopes, or however many cards we make, I will give you that number of envelopes. So for example, here in the Prism kit, we have these split flap cards. Those are really sweet. We'll make 4 of these standing pocket cards, and we make 4 of these really fun hinge cards. So again, no fear if you're not comfortable with all these structures. I will make you very comfortable in doing them because I'll just walk you through the assembly process step by step. So we're going to have a lot of fun making cards together. If you were to join Club Scrap, you would receive the Prism card kit, and then your next membership would renew on August 15th, unless we hear otherwise. Next, let's take a look at how we at Club Scrap make our pages. Today I'm using a special formula for a scrapbook page that I designed just for this event. So this is a brand new, fresh formula, and very much the way we did with cards, there is a gather list that tells you what you can find from your stash to help you make this page exactly as you see it. So the trimming instructions are there, very detailed, as well as your gather list. So here you've got A, B, and C, so that'll be 1 sheet each with 3 different colors, and then 2 of paper D. So I'm choosing papers once again from Club Scrap's July Prism collection. For paper A, I'm going to be using yellow, and for paper B, I'll use this gorgeous Prism print. And then for C, I'll use this light blue, and then my 2 dark blue will be the base of this double page spread. Next, I want to introduce you to my accordion pocket file. This is something that I developed after teaching a lot of classes with very, very limited space. And in my hour-long classes, we prepare the framework for 8 pages, and that requires a lot of pieces of paper, which we trim all at once. So as we're trimming, I wanted to find a way to file and organize all of the pieces for all 8 layouts at once in this handy little thing that would be held vertical by the base of the trimmer. So that's what we do here. This is a handmade item, and I actually have a little kit called an accordion pocket file kit that has everything you need except for some sort of a scoring tool and a bone folder to help you make one of these for yourself. Plus it also has a video tutorial. So this is a handy little device that keeps you organized whether you're card making or scrapbooking. I'm going to use it a little bit today. So the things that end up on the left side of this layout today will go into one pile, and the other items going to the right side of the page will go to another pile, or pocket in this case. Now papers A and B are trimmed the exact same way. You can see this in the instructions. Here's the diagram. Paper A and B are both trimmed together. So I'm going to trim them at the same exact time. And so I will add them to the trimmer, the same one I'm using as before. And our first cut is at 10 inches. And then I'll rotate And we'll trim at 11 1/4 and 10. So after trimming, we have these larger squares and then a whole bunch of narrow strips. For ease, I'm just going to set them aside and allow our visual recognition to determine where those pieces go. And then we're going to go ahead and trim paper C. Let's first start out at 11 inches, and then 9 and 6. Notice that I allow the paper to accumulate to the right of the blade without moving it each time I cut. I'm going to rotate the largest piece and cut at 8 and 4. All right, so take this piece. It's used on the left side of the page, so I'm going to put this in the first pocket. And then these other two 4x6s we'll put on the right side of the layout, so these will go in the second pocket. Now, if we were doing 8 layouts at a time, all those pocket numbers are given to you right in the instructions. Then we'll trim this 3x12 horizontally at 9, 6, and 3. Okay, all 4 of these squares are used in the first side, so we'll put that in the first pocket, or the left pocket. And then we have a 2x12 strip here. We'll cut this on all even numbers, so that's 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. Okay, we just made a bunch of squares. So 2 of these squares go in pocket or pile 1, and the remaining 4 go in pocket 2. And then this long strip is used in the right side of the layout, so I'll put that in pocket 2. Now, if you will, please just take all of your scraps and dispose of them. Okay, there are no scraps. Sorry, didn't mean to fool you there, but that's the joy of using a page formula like this. And let's start out by taking the remaining 2 papers, paper D, and putting those pieces side by side in front of you. And of course, we'll start out by taking also the largest pieces and placing those. So we'll take this beautiful print and center this on the left side, and this other print and center it on the right. Now, centering, let's just talk about that for 1 second. I want to give you a quick tip. I make these handy 3x14 grid rulers that help me with projects like centering and leveling the things on my page. You saw me use my 2x8 with the cards earlier. So this ruler has 0 to 14 on this edge, and then 7, 0, 0, 7 along this edge. So I will line up this ruler with the bottom edge of this page at the 1 inch mark. So if I go to this big solid line here, that's 1 inch measurement on the ruler, and I'm reading a 6 and a 6 here. So next, I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back of this large square and center it onto the paper by resting it against the ruler's edge, so the reading I get on each side is 5 and 5. So now I know it's perfectly centered, it's perfectly level, and it's 1 inch from the bottom edge and 1 inch from each side. And now that has been perfectly placed. Now, eyeballing is fine, but if you really do want to kick your layouts up a notch, this is a wonderful way to do that. I'll begin by placing this tall strip here, and of course, I would use my ruler when I attach it to just make sure it's not tilting downhill or, either direction. And this one will live over on this side. And then we have some nested pieces so that you take one of the planes and one of the prints that we trimmed, and that'll go across this area. And then there should be another pair of nesting strips. You can put those along the right edge of this side. So we're just distributing both colors over both sides of the layout. And then I'm going to reach into pocket A. So everything in this first pocket is designated for this side of the layout. We'll start out with a horizontal photo mat here, and then 2 small squares next to it, and then 1 larger square above it, which means that this has to come down a little. It's like doing a puzzle, which I really enjoy. You like jigsaw puzzles? I love them. Okay, then how about 3 sweet little squares below that? Now let's empty the second pocket, and we'll place 2 vertical mats right here. Scoot this to the right a little. How about this long strip going across the top? 4 squares along the top edge in a nice even row, which once again, the ruler can help make that happen. So I use the ruler pretty much the whole time I'm assembling my pages, and let me just show you how this one finished up after I added pictures. So I actually attended the Miss Wisconsin pageant last summer when we were allowed to have a pageant. And so the pictures all landed on these pages. My page was completed and adhered before I decided to use the pictures. And a lot of people are suspicious of approaching their scrapbooking this way. Like, why would you start it with a page and not the picture? But let me tell you, it's a huge time saver. So as my challenge to you, go ahead and try this. Finish it up. Adhere everything as you see it. Of course, it doesn't have to be exactly as you see it. And then go find something to scrapbook on this page and see how it comes together. For the final step, when I'm cropping my photos, I typically use my 8x8 grid ruler to hover over the mat just to confirm, like, this is a 3" by 3" photo mat. So if I subtract 1/4 inch from that measurement, giving me 2 3/4 square, then I can hover this ruler over my photo to make sure if I crop it that size, I'm not going to lose any critical elements. So this ruler is really handy for finishing my pages. In fact, we have a 3-pack of our rulers available as a value pack. So you get the 2x8, 3x14, and the 8x8 as a special member price if you use that code Lancaster when you're shopping. So pick up this trio if this interests you. Now, as with the card recipe, this formula can be used countless times, and when you do it, you can rotate things, you can move things around, you can swap the side that something's on. This is a guideline to help you get started, but also to give you some confidence. If it really takes you a long time to finish some pages, this can save you tons of time, and also there is no waste. Let me show you another example of this exact layout using June's Vintage Americana collection papers. So here we have the left side and the right side. The same exact components, in this case, assembled the same exact way. I added some cut-aparts that we design monthly to match our kits and coordinate with them. But basically, it's the same layout, but it looks completely different. It's different subject matter. It's a different kit theme, and I love how this came together. Before we wrap things up, this is how your monthly page kit or card kit membership would arrive in our handsome little pizza box. And inside you'll find your collection. So this is the page kit. It comes with photo mats, fibers, embellishments, and a download of instructions, plus the full video tutorial to help you finish your pages. So this, again, is the example from July. This is the page kit instruction download. It shows the pre-printed cut-aparts and the little roadmap of where every single little piece is used. And then 4 trimming diagrams in this case, where each paper is trimmed in the same type of manner that we did together today. And then a picture, of course, of every individual double-page spread. And all of our page kits make 8 12x12 layouts. And then even on each photo mat, I give you the measurement the photo would need to be to fit perfectly into that spot. So there's very little guesswork. You know how it's going to turn out. Do you have to do it this way? Of course not. But this is just a place to start, especially if you lack a little bit of confidence or maybe a little bit of inspiration. So to look at them, these are the 8 double page spreads made with July's Prism kit. And again, if you join Club Scrap as a result of this event and you use the code Lancaster, this would be the kit that you would receive, and your next subscription would renew on August 15th. So these are the pages, the beautiful layouts that are all ready for photos. You can see I got one of them done already, the layouts from July's Prism collection. In addition to the kit, the download instructions, a full video tutorial, and all of the materials, our members every month get a page formula, just like what we did earlier together today. So this is July's page formula, and my goal, as always, is to help you use what you have and use everything we send with very little waste of time or material. So these page formulas really help. In fact, we have past years of these page formulas available on our digital site at clubscrapdigital.com. So feel free to check that out. Wow, that was a lot of material to cover in a very short period of time. But again, I hope to remind you that you can turn back to this anytime you need some extra help or want to review it again. This video will be available to you along with a landing page. If you visit clubscrap.com/Lancaster, you will be able to review all of this information there as well. Now, if you want to do some joining or shopping, we're here to help as well. So if you use the code Lancaster, when you check out through our store, you'll be able to receive free shipping on orders over $40 and member pricing, which is really a savings. You save $8 per kit. So if you don't want to join, shop anyway and give our kits a try. You'll be surprised at how much time and money you'll save if you participate in one of our kit memberships. Speaking of, if you want to get the Prism card kit Or if you want to join the page kit, if you join either club, a free gift for you will be an accordion pocket file starter kit so that you can make that handy accordion pocket file that I use all the time to help me increase my efficiency. If you are joining, you'll get the free gift. All you simply have to do is use the code Lancaster at checkout. So if we see that you're a new member and you use Lancaster, this will be included in your first shipment. There's no need to put it in your shopping cart. We'll take care of it. Okay, thanks again for joining me, and stay safe and be well, and we'll hope to see you next year.